I unfortunately lost quite a bit of money because the one person I thought I could trust mismanaged my funds and used it for his own over the course of 8 years. What do you need to learn to be able to understand what it's like to be a professional athlete? Trust is a massive element. That's not always easy, because when you're young, who are the people you trust? Is it your parents? Is it your family? Is it a lawyer? Like, trust is a really difficult thing to understand. And my trust rested with my dad, who was managing that side of my life for a very young age, only to find out 8 years later that the trust I thought I had was not being had. So I unfortunately lost quite a bit of money because the one person I thought I could trust mismanaged my funds and used it for his own over the course of 8 years. So
I'm so sorry. How did you find out?
I got married, funnily enough. Janine, she is phenomenal. I'll never forget, I invited her to that first game where I was involved in the Springbok team. And obviously it was me trying to be like Romeo. I was like, oh, come on, you're getting to be with the wives and girlfriends at Ellis Park, the absolute home of SA Rugby. And she went in there and she felt so awkward because everyone was asking, oh, who are you with? She's like, oh, no, Brian invited me. Oh, so how long have you been together? No, we're not together. But why are you here? Oh, I don't know. He invited me. I thought I this sure case. Surely you become my girlfriend now. I invited you to a Springbok game. And one of the first things when we sort of started going on the journey together, she looked at me and she said, who manages, how do you manage your finances? I was like, sorry, who are you and why, what? She goes, no, she's just got a feeling I just need to be aware that she feels I need to manage my money better. No, my dad's managing, trusted. And she's like, are you sure that's the right thing? And she's like, I was like, yeah, it's my dad. 21, I don't know how to manage money. And then when we got married, there was sort of a journey of, I wanted a sort of quiet, intimate wedding. And my dad had, he sat me and Janine down. Oh, you can't do this. You're the Will and Kate of South Africa. You have to have this public marriage. I'm like, no, we don't. And I'd obviously put a lot of trust in my dad and I believed the best. And then we sort of went on this journey of now having this public wedding, which we had zero control over. So my dad was managing everything. And it just became an absolute shit show, where on the Friday night, Janine was crying because her mother had been lambasted by my dad. And the event organizer of our wedding, I was in New Zealand, and she phoned me. She's like, listen, I'm not getting paid. I'm like, what do you mean you're not getting paid? Like, no, well, your dad's not paying us. And he sort of phoned my dad, and we'd also had a bit of a hiccup. And I was like, but where's, why are people, oh, no, sorry, sort it out. And then when we finally got married, so our wedding day was amazing, but there was a real behind-the-scenes sadness for the both of us. And we'd come back, and I'd actually signed to go down to the Stormers, so the Western Cape, Western Province from the Bulls, which was also horrible. It was going north-south, and we'd had to put down a deposit on a house. So I sort of went to my dad to listen, because my dad was managing all my commercial elements. I was still getting my rugby contract salary, and my dad was managing all the commercial sponsorships. And listen, I need to take a bit of chunk out of my nest egg, because we need to buy a house, because houses in Cape Town are a lot more expensive than houses in Johannesburg. It's like, okay, cool, no, it's coming. And the more I'd ask, the more the money wasn't coming. And at a point, the estate agent in Cape Town said, well, listen, if you don't pay the deposit now, you're going to lose the house. And it was our dream home. I was like, I can't lose this house. So I actually had to get bridging finance because I wasn't getting any of my nest egg. I had to go get bridging finance from an institution. And then I spoke to my dad. I was like, listen, what's happening here? And he goes, no. So there was a time period of about 3 months where nothing was forthcoming. And then end of 2009, I was in talks with Adidas and Canterbury about an apparel sponsor, but I'd been with Adidas as a boot sponsor for my whole life, and Canterbury were really good to me. And on the 1st of January 2010, I sent out an email, because I now sort of started finding out, I think things were a bit dodgy and nothing had been forthcoming. I sent an email out to all my sponsors saying, listen, any negotiations or contractual talks that have been held with my dad up until the 31st of December, is null and void. Any future contractual obligations needs to come directly to me or my lawyer. And the CEO of Canterbury International emailed me back immediately, like, Brian, but we've just signed you for 5 years. I'm like, sorry, what? No, we've paid a very big re-signing fee to sign you for the next 5 years. So I phoned my dad, I'm like, listen, where's this money? He goes, oh no, he didn't receive any money. But I had the contract in front of me. I was like, I had the contract, I deposit, so it was pretty tough.
And so, I'm sorry, your dad was just pocketing that money?
Yeah. So they were living off it, unfortunately. So he was living a life off it. So I then also believed, so then I sort of went into legal. So I thought we had signed a trust document for the Brian Habana Trust, which I then found out that never ever existed. And for some weird reason, I actually signed another one with my legal lawyer in Pretoria at the Bulls. That was actually the only live trust that I had. So the actual Brian Habana Trust, which I thought all my commercial money was getting paid into, was actually my dad's bank account.
And the money that you were getting from a contract was the money that you were able to live off. So that was the money that you
And to be fair, I was living pretty well. Yeah. So as 2009, I was 26 years old. I was still living pretty well. But and you also I couldn't share that with the world because there was this sort of outward world-facing view that myself and my dad and the relationship we had was phenomenal, right? And then I moved on, and to my dad's credit, he did get me the biggest contract in South Africa in 2009, going down to Western Province. So that sort of helped. And again, we've not had a relationship in 15 years because when I did approach him with the facts, he denied everything, but all the money was gone.
You didn't recoup that money?
No. So the Gillette money, which was not as much as what the publications say, I didn't actually get 1 cent on that.
I'm so sorry. What did the publications say?
I think they reported something like 30 million rand, which really it was divided by 30 or 28. It was not as much. But the funniest was that not only did I not get that money, I had to pay tax on that money that I didn't get.
Wow.
If someone like Brian Habana, a 2-time Rugby World Cup winner, a Springbok legend, I think one of South Africa's most recognizable rugby player, if he can sit there and say, what do I actually know about money? My father handled everything for me. That tells you something. It tells you just how important it is for someone as ordinary as you and me should take control of our finances. Honestly, if someone who achieved that level of success and earned significant money, someone who had major sponsorships and people around him, if he could still find himself in a situation where he didn't fully understand what was happening with his own money, then that means none of us should assume that simply earning an income means we are financially okay. This conversation should really change the way you look at money. This isn't about debt. It touches on trust, accountability, and taking ownership of your financial life. Brian Habana said he was around 21 years at the time. Imagine being that young and suddenly you're making money, so much money. Who are you supposed to trust? And personally, I would think your parents, your family. Maybe it's a lawyer, or should you trust an accountant? At that young age, you've never dealt with that kind of money before. Naturally, you look towards the people around you. You believe they have your best interest at heart. But I think that's where we have to be careful. I trust my wife, but it's not blind trust. Blind trust is a big no. I'm sure you've heard the term, trust is earned. And I believe it is earned by keeping track, checking in, and being transparent. The reason I trust my wife is because I've seen that she's worth trusting. She's trustworthy. But being trustworthy does not mean that I just give you everything and then I'm blind to what's happening. I trust you so much that I'll check in because I'm confident. I'm very confident that there's nothing to hide. That's the difference. I think that's something we need to understand when it comes to money. Trust doesn't mean that you completely move or remove yourself from the process. You can trust someone and still check the numbers. You can trust someone and still ask questions. You can trust someone and still want to know what's happening with your money. Because ultimately, it's your money. And this is where Brian Habana's story became such an important lesson. He had someone he trusted managing that side of his life from a very young age. But there's a difference between trusting someone with your money and understanding your money. So I can trust you with my money, but I still have to understand my money. And unfortunately, we outsource so much of our lives that at some point we don't even realize how much control we've given away. We outsource our health, we outsource our finances, we outsource our investments, we outsource our taxes, we outsource our legal affairs. And yes, these are things that professionals can help us with. That's what they are there for. But when you've been outsourcing so much, you don't have control. It's still your health, it's still your money. But I don't think it's wrong to have your wife, your husband, your parents, your accountant, or your financial advisor handle certain aspects of your finances. That's not the problem. The problem is when you completely remove yourself from the process, because you still need to check in from time to time. In our home, so in our home, my wife and I have financial meetings twice a month. One is for the family, the other is for the business. We sit down and look at what's happening, what came in, what went out, what decisions do we need to make. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes I don't even want the meetings because it's not easy confronting the truth, what's actually happening in your bank account. But we do it. Most of the time, she's the one who actually forces, she reminds me, why are we not having the meetings? What's happening? Because we both need to know what's happening. And my children, they're still young. So the moment they turn 10 years, they'll start being part of those meetings. For now, we are coaching them from afar. And I think that's important because financial literacy shouldn't start when your child gets their first salary. It should start much earlier. They need to understand that money is something that needs to be managed, discussed, and positioned intentionally. That's why I especially love the fact that Brian Habana chose to love and marry a wise woman who held him accountable. Janine looked at him and said, "Who manages your money?" And his response was, my dad. But because she's a wise woman, she asked again, "Are you sure that's the right thing?" Obviously, that wasn't necessarily an accusation against his father. The right person besides you shouldn't just make you feel good. Sometimes they should make you uncomfortable. Sometimes they should challenge you. They should say, "Are you sure?"